So, um, take one, probably the only one that we're gonna do. Okay, now recording. One, two, three. So, John, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay. First of all, like, no one knows you here. You're a stranger, but like, just tell us what's your story like with music. When do you meet each other, and how long have you meet each other?
Well, I like the fact that you make music into a person that you have a relationship with. I think it's a lovely way of thinking about it. I first met music when I was a kid listening to my parents play violins, and that sound has kept with me all throughout my life. And so I first met music then. I first began on the piano. I was age 4, and on the violin a little bit later, so when I was a young child.
Age 4 playing piano.
Yes, just very badly, like this, very badly. But I soon left. My mum is a musician. She was playing in the orchestra on the concert that we just did.
Really?
Yes, she was there. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned the orchestra concert, what happened? Like, what happened on Sunday?
What happened on Sunday was a beautiful thing here in St Ambrose Church, which was a community concert with the Dovetail Orchestra for asylum-seeking musicians. So that was one thing. They just did 2 pieces. And then we did a symphony orchestra. We fitted about 65 musicians into this space. And we did an hour's worth of classical music to raise money for Aid Box charity.
So it was like a really formal event, and they were like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of planification behind the thing. They're you mentioned me something about your friends. Why was that concert special? What's the context of that?
Well, you mentioned friends. There were a lot of my friends there. Let me tell you why. Because it was my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So partly I wanted to do something to celebrate my 50th birthday. Partly I wanted to raise money for Aid Box community, who've been so helpful to the Dovetail group. And partly I wanted to celebrate the life of Adrian Sutton, who's a composer with whom I've worked on numerous occasions. He's a very good, deep friend, and he writes beautiful music, and he's sadly dying of cancer. So we wanted to grab the opportunity to play his music.
Mm-hmm. How was your reaction when you found out that your friend was dying?
It was tragic because he keeps fit. He was at the peak of his career. He was just enjoying life to the full. And so this came out of the blue, and the cancer is in 3 different places. So it's inoperable, there's no way out of it. So it's just a matter of trying to make sure he has a good quality of life. It was devastating to hear, and I think it's released a lot of music from him, because he wants to spend what little time he has left composing and giving music to the world, and I want to spend what little time he has left just celebrating his life in music.
I see, but how did you feel conducting that thing? Or is it just a lot of emotional charge within? And I was in the concert, and I was looking at you, and you were all the moving with your eyes closed, trying to feel the music. I think even if I didn't know the context, I didn't know that your friend, the composer, was dying, I could say that there was something there.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. No, there's a moment when you really connect with a piece, and I think with the beauty of what he's written, you didn't have to know the backstory, as you say, to realise that this was something very tender, something that has a lot of importance in his life, but also the musicians loved playing his pieces. They're really good pieces. But you talk about the emotion of it. Before I was on the podium conducting, there was a lot of crying and just trying to get, because it's so emotional and the music is so moving. And then particularly the thought that you're not going to see, or I'm not going to see Adrian again. to, that was hard. So in a way, it's a sort of a musical goodbye that we're doing. But once you're actually there in a concert leading, you have to just go into a different
it's like
space.
get into the zone.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Just be about the music.
I don't know, it's kind of poetic to me, I think. Because it's like his passion for music is dancing with the death itself, and it's like in a race of time. How do you feel about what your friend has done, like writing these plays, even though he's dying? Like, what would you do in his shoes?
Yeah, well, I think it's incredibly special. You're right that he's, despite feeling ill with chemotherapy, he's kind of found the time to write this music. This was the first time that that he'd heard these pieces for orchestra, so it was a pleasure for him as well. So it's, there's a mutual pleasure to be had. It's important for him to hear how the music works, so that he can change things, so that if the music can be performed again, which I'm sure it will be, he's used the concert as a way of testing it as well. So it was practically helpful to him. I think it was emotionally helpful to hear his creativity celebrated, and his partner was there, so it was really important that Matt could celebrate Adrian in that way as well. And apparently it was so moving for Matt that he had to leave the church. He couldn't listen to it. It's too raw, too close.
What do you think about music around the world, around time, and like why did you try to grab people from around different countries and try to convey them in one orchestra? I mean, how was that process like?
There are quite a few questions there. Let me start with that last one, which is why Dovetail? It's because music is a great way of bringing people together and connecting them at a really deep level really quickly, and to feel as if you're escaping from the everyday and as if you're creating something beautiful together in the moment that everybody can enjoy and just feel happy about. Music generally makes you feel happy, right, afterwards in some way. Even if you played a sad piece, that's a releasing thing. So I think it's about recognising that we need to welcome asylum seekers to Bristol more, and that music is a very good way of doing that and bonding people and creating community, not just between asylum seekers but also with local musicians as well, and just broadening the connections that there are in the Bristol.
It's like a bridge between
society.
any community pocket.
Yeah, exactly. It's an immediate bridge. And you asked about the genres of music and how I connect to them. The more I learn, the more I realise how much is similar. For example, that rhythm goes across the world, from kind of Africa to Ireland to Eastern Europe to Far East, and Brazil, kind of Latin America, for example. And so you kind of you begin to see that there's a DNA that actually joins a lot of musical languages together, and then there are different accents, of course, but or there might be just sort of those 5 notes make up the basis of so many different musical melodies across the world, so it's really fascinating to me to see what is shared and what is common, and just to keep an open mind about how to combine, I don't know. But it's that kind of thing. It's just trying to sort of just listen out for possibilities of what works together and what doesn't. That I find fascinating.
It's like music is like a universal language, I think.
Yeah, it can be. It can also be a really divisive language. What we're learning is, hang on, that song is Kurdish, or that song is, Baltic, and there's a sense of identity and strong cultural attachment that goes with it too. And so we have to be careful about how we respect the musical traditions that go with the songs and the pieces, and keep that intact, but also do our own thing, do our own mix.
I think that music is like in a constant change, and I think that music is like gonna be there even though we're gonna die with time. And I have realized that time and death, they don't really care about no one. I think that we're just in everything music all the time, because all the time we're creating and all the time we're just like receiving things from past generations. And I think that we're just passing those things in our way to the future generation. Like, I don't know, but how do you feel about it? Like, have you ever thought about like what's your musical legacy? Like, what are you gonna give to the new generations?
Yes, I have. I mean, you have no control over your legacy, really, right? But I think if there's one theme in my life and in the projects that I've done in my life, then it's about music creating community. And so, I've set up a music school, and that's about creating a music community of young, talented musicians. That's now in its 11th year, and I hope that it will carry on long after I die. I set up a symphony orchestra 25 years ago that's still going, and that's about reaching out to a certain community here in Bristol. I hope Dovetail will last for hundreds of years as an idea, as a project. Why not? That's my hope, that's my legacy. And the various other community work that I do with recovery musicians, so people recovering from addictions or just creative communities I work with generally. I just hope that it's just giving people confidence to work together and be open to each other's musical languages and see what comes out of it. That's the main thing I want to leave behind.
Okay. What do you think about like the music of nowadays, like all the music that young people listen to, like, all that, like?
I think music always performs roles in people's lives, and I can see that today's music, as in pop music, has a role. It has a role to play. However, for me personally, it's quite an imprisoning role. It's like you've got this beat. For me, listening to just 2-3 chords with a beat that goes like that, with lyrics that aren't very clever, it doesn't move me. But I can see that it has a role. I think as long as you combine that exposure to music with more profound musical experiences, then there's some kind of balance there, but just to see one style of music and just to have a diet of one style of music, I don't think is healthy.
You're eating music.
You just have that kind of one plate all your life. That's not a good thing. I think the main thing is to have a wide diet, but also to realise that music, as you saw in the concert, has a real power to move people spiritually, to bring together wide communities. And I think, my hope is that everybody will be able to experience that kind of music making, as well as just listening to a pop song on the radio.
But like, what do you want music to be like? I don't know. What do you want the music future to be like?
I think what's exciting is with platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and there is so much more sharing of musical styles, and so the big positive at the moment.
That's true. Everyone could be a freelancer.
Is that every day I can experience a new style that I've never come across before, and I find that it's far easier to be a musical explorer now than it ever was. And so I think where I come from musically is a classical training, so my main thing is that whatever the future holds, I'd like to see classical music as part of it. Alive, not completely written out. And so it's important to me, because I think classical music, orchestral music, choral music, has a very special role to play, coming back to the thought of roles in people's lives.
It was the beginning of music. It has to be there.
Yes, it's there alongside folk musics and other kind of musics right at the beginning, but it has such an important legacy, and I think we need to preserve that too.
What would you like to say to any musician that may hear this thing?
I think at any stage, it's always about persistence, whether you're an experienced musician or a beginner, and it's like any habit. The main thing about music is, and particularly learning an instrument, is that it's hard. It is hard, and so you have to realise that this is a daily habit that you
It's like a lifestyle.
can nurture. It's a lifestyle. It's part of what you do every
Once
day.
you're a musician, there's no going back.
Well, I'm very proud of having an identity as a musician. When people ask what I do, and I say, "Yeah, I'm a musician." I feel that makes me feel very artistic, and I'm proud of that. And I think people can say, "Yeah, I'm a musician," and try out that identity, put on that cap, and say, "How does it feel?" But so it is about persistence and just doing the 10 minutes a day or longer, and just knowing that if you carry on doing that, you'll get more and more joy, more and more delight.
He doesn't like music. He doesn't love music.
It's hard to imagine someone not liking music, right?
Yeah,
At some level. I'm sure there are lots of people who are deprived of music in some way or shape, but once they hear it, it's a natural human reaction just to respond to it at a deep level.
Yeah. Do you think that to be a musician is more important the talent or the practice?
It's always both, right? It's always both. And if you're talking about being a professional musician, then clearly you need both. You need to have both a natural aptitude and talent, and you need to work hard at it. But if you just want to enjoy music in your life, just keep going.
What if I want to be a professional musician and I don't have talent, or I don't practice but I have talent? How does that work? Like, am I going to succeed or not?
The last one works okay. If you have talent, you can get away without practice up to a certain degree. But I don't know any talented musician that hasn't had to work really hard to actually make the journey they have in the industry. That's the reality. It's a tough industry, whether it's pop or folk or classical. It takes a real application and dedication. And if you don't have talent, but you put the work in anyway, you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I'm a bit lazy, actually. I think
Because you're a talented one.
Well, I do have a musical gift that I've relied on quite a lot since childhood, and I feel that I often ask myself, had I worked harder, would I be a different musician now? But I think in other ways, it's made me more open as a musician, because I haven't specialised in one route. I haven't said, right, piano, I'm going to do 6 hours of piano a day. I've become more of a generalist, and so it's worked for me. I still work hard, but not at just one instrument. It's more the whole journey.
Do you prefer, like, as a musician, do you prefer being a generalist, or being a master of just one instrument, but being the best one doing that?
For me, and it's a very personal thing, definitely being a generalist, because that way I can eat lots of different cakes. Right, going back to the food metaphor, who wants to eat, ginger cake for the whole of their life? Not me.
Yeah.
Lemon drizzle every day. No, thank you. No. So it's nice to have, a wide choice.